10th of May at about 1 a.m. Its aim was to get down India to its knees in 48 hours. Multiple attacks were launched. And in some manner, they have escalated this conflict, which we had actually hit only terror targets, but also into the military domain. Operation which they thought they'll continue for 48 hours, folded up in about 8 hours. And on 10th, when they picked up the telephone and said they wanted to talk. Venom was spewed by General Chauhan against India and Hindus. Speak just few days or weeks before what happened in Pahalgam. So, since this is a recent distance, it can be also, I believe, that retracted because now Pakistan is faced with a different kind of a prospect that he faces military action in case we find terror happening against us. And also, we said that we'll have water as well as, this thing will not flow together. So we have kind of raised the bar. We have connected terror to water, and we have drawn out new lines for military operations. We had informed Pakistan on the day we had done this surgical strikes on 7th. We had done it till from 1105, that's 5, at about 1 o'clock to about 1:30, and 5 minutes later we had dug up the Director General of Military Operations to say that we have done this, and we have hit only terror targets. Military establishments have been out of the purview of the strikes, and we have ensured that there are no collateral damage, especially civilians, and we need to talk to each other. So that was, I think, the rational decisions. And subsequently, when there was a rhetoric from Pak side, we also said that in case Pakistan hits military establishments, we are going to hit them back. We'll hit them harder, and if they stop, we are going to stop. So when Pakistan did ask for talks and de-escalation, we also at some point of time, not immediately, at some point of time, I would say, did accept what they were saying. So this is what I thought was the political part of war. And now I talk about the combat part of war. And that's the second part, which I said it had 4 constituents. That's the combatant, the Yodha, the battlefield, combat zone, the fight takes place, talks about technology, and 4th is about tactics. So these are the 4 things, I think, important part of warfare. Combatants actually today, earlier we all thought people in uniform, organized military forces are part of combat, but today we have paramilitary forces, mercenaries, contractors, terrorists, jihadis, private companies, with technology. So we had heard about long back about Wagner Group, similarly Blackwater groups. So a lot of security companies provide armed security, mission support and risk management services, not only to corporate houses, but also governments. So it's not that combatants are only uniformed people paid for by the government. It's different. And today combatants may also include citizens, neutral citizens or nations, or netizens rather. They can take part independently or otherwise based on their support to any ideology in cyber warfare, psychological operations, media outreach, etc. So the concept of this war will be only conducted by combatants which are paid for the government is getting diluted slowly. There are other players who are coming into fray. Let me talk about rationality once again in the context of Operation Bunyan al-Marsus. Which I said, I said once, twice earlier that in this whole business of warfare or use of force, the military people are the ones who are most rational, because we understand that, war and warfare is very, very unpredictable, and we also probably understand the consequences of war. So that I think is important. So although lost by Pakistan on 10th of May at about 1 a.m. Its aim was to get down India to its knees in 48 hours. Multiple attacks were launched. And in some manner, they have escalated this conflict, which we had actually hit only terror targets, but also into the military domain. From their perspective, it would have been rational in the sense they would have said that you use military means to hit these targets. but it was also rational on their part. Operation which they thought they'll continue for 48 hours, folded up in about 8 hours. And on 10, when they picked up the telephone and said they wanted to talk. And I think that the rationale behind this the realization coming in, stem from two facts. That one is they must have assumed that if they continued this mode, they're likely to lose much more. So hence they picked up the telephone. And second thing, since they had struck us at multiple fronts, they still did not have the benefit of understanding what they had struck. So they must have thought they must have struck, and hence they like to talk now. And if they don't, they tend to lose both.
So initially, it appeared that Operation Sindoor will be a long-term conflict. But what made the Pakistani side capitulate so fast and so suddenly?
Listen, I think in some part I was able to address this. What I said was, from our side, we didn't want to get into a long kind of a conflict. We've seen our experience in Operation Prakara. We were there for almost about 9 months. It involves a lot of expenditure, disturbs everything. And we had seen this to some extent after Balakot. There was a deployment which we had mobilized. So in this particular case, what happened was, before this mobilization could be completed, the operations was halted. Of course, Operation Sindoor, as you know, is not over as yet. It continues. It's a temporary cessation of hostilities. There is a need to keep an eye up. So this, I think, is important. But as far as the Pakistani side is concerned, I can make a guess, two guesses. That is one, that they were losing things faster at a very, very long distance. And they thought that if this continued for some more time, they're likely to lose more. And hence, they picked up the telephone. Second thing, give the enemy also, your adversary due. He had also attempted a large number of attacks. On 10, starting from 1 o'clock till about 9:30, 10, huge number of attacks. They continued subsequently also. And he would have assumed that some of them were as successful as Indians had been. Of course, that didn't happen, and he had no way to realize this. Like in the initial stages also, when we were hitting very deep, I'm not talking about the first day. On 7th, we had ensured that we had all kinds of images. But when it's a dynamic war, then we really did not know what is the effect on Sargodha, what is the effect on Marine, what is the effect on Gulari, so what is the effect on Yokohama. It's afterwards we get a satellite image. So the first few hours, we were not very sure. Of course, we are all aided by Pakistanis themselves because they were putting up things in the social media, so we had some idea of its success. But we had to wait for confirmation from satellite images and other sources, say signal intelligence or otherwise. So we were quite sure. They were also not sure. They might be hoping that they have also done similar kind of damage. But probably their hopes were belied after 3 or 4 days that they would have searched the satellite images from whichever country they're buying from, that they have not done. So by the time
So my question is, what are the losses incurred or experienced by Pakistani side during Operation Sindoor, and from this, what can be the potential strategic insight we can draw for future conflicts and the evolution of warfare, sir?
Very nice question. When I was asked about losses on our side, I said these are not important. The results and how you act is important. So it would be not very correct to talk about losses, means numbers, etc. I'll give a detailed kind of an answer on this. You see in a match, suppose you go into a football match and you win 3-2, he scored 2 goals and you scored 4 goals, so that's an even side match. But suppose you go on in a test match, cricket test match, and you win by innings defeat. Then there's no question of how many wickets and how many balls and how many players. It's an innings defeat. But since there is always this inquisitivity as to the result of your strikes, which was visible, which was a more in psychological domain and what was visible to us, all of us, means not to us, to globally, to everyone. So, based on technical parameters like electronic intelligence, signal intelligence, at some point of time, we will take out this particular data and share it once to answer those queries and inquisitiveness of people like you who keep telling me how many aircraft did we destroy, how many radars did we destroy. We will make a rough assessment of that and come out with that shortly. In my concluding remarks, I can only say that Operation Sindoor created a kind of a history of sorts as far as air warfare is concerned. Successful operations were carried out against an adversary which was almost equally matched, if you can say. It is not operations against an adversary which had no air force or no air defense worth its salt. It was against an adversary, and against that, if you are able to carry out relentless operations deep inside with precision and offensive in intent, I think that was a big achievement, and we were able to penetrate those air defense networks with impunity and at will. So, history, because I'm saying this is because exhibition of this particular superior air power was demonstrated against someone which already had some good capabilities in this particular field. So that was all I had to say about future warfare and wars. I hope you get a fair idea as to how warfare is evolving, and this particular preparedness of the armed forces is first about by thinking. We should be able to understand where warfare is going so that we can change your tactics, get your equipment profile right, understand, have your organizational structures right, you have your doctrines and concepts right. So in this particular thought process, in this whole, it's not the job of only the armed forces, people like me or this young generation who are going to be doing this probably after 5 or 10 years. It's also the role of veterans, the academy. Everyone is the whole of nation to understand where we are evolving, what's happening, so that we are better prepared as a nation.